Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramf, here to usher you in to Friday, August 28th. It is Friday morning. A lot of things going on this last week, and heck, the temperature is about to drop in quite a big way. I'm going to look at my weather app just real quick so you can get a kind of an idea of what we can expect. Today, we're going to expect highs in the 85, but then sometime on Saturday through Monday, we're basically going to see highs into the 70s, with Tuesday looking like summer is going to come back a little bit like it is today, but then the rest of the week from then on out, it's going to be highs into the 70s, mid 70s, and heck, even next Saturday is looking to be high levels of in your mid 60s. So fall is coming with a vengeance for sure, so get those pumpkin spice lattes or whatever you'd like to do. All right, let's kick things off. Next week is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in Missoula, and the city of Missoula made a proclamation about it this last week. Common symptoms of ovarian cancer includes persistent abdominal bloating, pelvic or abdominal pain. Pain includes discomfort, ache, or pain in the pelvic or lower back. Please consult your doctor if you are between the ages of 55 and 64, with 63 being the median age range for most common positive symptoms. Molly Stockdale, cancer survivor, spoke on behalf of the proclamation.
Without routine screening tests, cancers like mine are often diagnosed at later stages when symptoms are more severe, when treatment is more difficult, and when survival rates decline sharply. I have left some postcards with information about the symptoms of ovarian cancer on the table outside this room, and I encourage everybody to take a look and share them with the people you love. Knowing your body and seeking answers when something doesn't feel right can save your life, and that's why I'm here today, to be able to speak for others. I also wanted just to note quickly that there's major progress and help for women with ovarian cancer right here in our own community. Can't Make a Dream, which is based in Missoula and is located in Gold Creek, is one of the only places nationwide to offer ovarian cancer survivor retreats, where we get together every year, which is amazing.
All right. And so Camp Make a Dream, not to be confused with Camp Make a Wish, is one of those organizations based out of Powell, Montana, and it's about an hour away from here. And they have specific services for people who are suffering from ovarian cancer. Other proclamation was the National Recovery Month for those struggling with alcohol or substance abuse and dependency problems. Also in September, Susan Garcia Pino, Executive Director of the 4D Club, speaks on that proclamation. I think I am kind of backwards with some of my notes. So here is National Recovery Month featuring Susan Garcia Pino.
We hear a lot about addiction when things are going badly. We hear about overdoses. We hear about homelessness and crime. We hear about people going into treatment or ending up in the hospital or the criminal justice system. But what we don't hear as much about is what happens when recovery is working. And it does work. I get to see it every day. I see people get their kids back. I see people get great jobs and become good employees. I see families start trusting each other again. I see people who come through our doors needing help, turn around 6 months or a year or 5 years later and become the person helping somebody else.
Okay, and so for the 4th D Club of Missoula, it's 4 and then thdclubmissoula.org for more information and resources for you and your loved ones in need. Kristen Newman spoke last week about the ADA consultant for the city that didn't get funded through the fiscal year 2027. They were concerned about the lack of access via the city's website when it comes to people just trying to get access to the website who fall into the category of ADA.
As someone who has experienced being unhoused, searching for resources should not be a game of hide and seek on the city's website. It should also not make someone feel like they're a government issue to be addressed rather than a member of our community. These are community resources for our community members. In terms of accessibility, people with disabilities have the right to information. Accessibility is everyone's responsibility, not just IT or the legal team. If someone is making a resource document and it is available for your community to use right now, it needs to be accessible. Effective communication has always been a requirement under the ADA. Just because the web content accessibility guidelines have been adopted as guidelines to meet effective communication requirements, and just because the deadline for your compliance got extended does not negate the fact that you are required to provide your information effectively. Everyone has a right to this information and should not require an accommodation request which would create delayed access to critical community resources. The PDF fails 19 basic accessibility criteria that would have been simply identified if staff would have ran the accessibility check within Adobe. But this check is for basic failures. Adobe does not ensure PDFs are fully accessible. Your ADA coordinator should be monitoring these issues and ensuring staff have the training they need to make their work accessible. When you pull up this PDF, not only is it not accessible to people with disabilities, it is also difficult to read because some of the information is upside down, as it apparently is something that was created to be printed and folded into a guide. This requires someone unhoused to have the technology to download a PDF and have access to a printer.
Yep. And one of those things that also kind of brings back to MCAT's website as well, is that was one of the things that when we hired our website coordinator, June Noel, to work on it, basically showing those staples of ADA compliance, of how websites interact with people who have certain disabilities and help them along that way, and how websites can be kind of designed and software updated to be more ADA accessible. And they believe that the accommodations after the fact shouldn't be on the folks searching for through the website of the City of Missoula, which is ci.missoula.mt.us. ADA needs are becoming more and more necessary as the city looks to upgrade their facilities in the future as well. While becoming ADA compliant can get expensive in some places, Troy Monroe spoke during public comment about the rising prices of going to the University of Montana. And this is what he had to say about that.
This year, the cost of attendance at the University of Montana is more than $32,000 per year, an increase of more than 34% in just 4 years. An increase of 34% over 4 years is roughly 8.6% annual increase. If that trend continues, a freshman entering the University of Montana today could be looking at more than $150,000 for 4 years bachelor's degree. If that trend continues, this year's high school sophomores can expect to pay $200,000 for a degree. Any of you with fifth graders, their college degree will cost $250,000 just for the bachelor's degree. I bring this up because there's a connection between the cost of obtaining that education and what organizations are willing to pay for the knowledge and skills that education provides. There are jobs that require a college degree, professional education, technical expertise, and years of experience. Those positions cannot be treated as though the education and expertise required to perform them have no value.
Yeah, and part of that is, it's the idea of pay to play. And when you have these increases in tuitions, and they also cut literacy and many humanity programs with the University of Montana, which is not a correlating issue per se, but Missoula is a flagship. University of Montana is a flagship school and covers a lot of graduate program degrees. MCAT covered the State of the University address, which I'll show you guys at the end of my city council with a little teaser for all our new programs that are airing this week. While Troy was worried about the professional education for professional placement in many fields that have lacking in the last few years, from civic work to construction and trade skills. As the city moves on to public hearings, they spoke about wildfire property tax exemption. So this is actually an interesting move as they look to preserve local low-income housing. Wildfire apartments has basically been the low-income housing exemption for many, many, many years, and it remains exempt from the property taxes as a rehabilitation moves forward with a new allocation of tax credits. So essentially, if they go through the HUD programs, Missoula Housing Authority kind of oversees a lot of this stuff, the exemption must be renewed, which requires new public hearing, which is why you're about to hear this. So this is Mike Boucher from Boucher Developments spoke about this.
The original land use restrictions on the project expired actually a couple of years ago. So the Missoula Housing Authority, fortunately, they purchased it. They desire to keep it as affordable housing for Missoula. Otherwise, another owner, upon the expiration of the LURA, could have kicked out all of the residents and made it a market rate apartment. So we're here to support the Missoula Housing Authority's mission in keeping the Wildflower Apartments safe, clean, efficient, and affordable for Missoulians for many years to come.
Yep, and a big part of this, and so if you don't know where the Wildfire Apartments are, they're kind of like the grayish apartments right next to the Albertsons at the end of Russell as it meets up with Southwest Higgins. A big part of this is they want to essentially create or have 6 units ready for move-in, so the current residents would essentially be relocated to those 6 units. Their units would be refurbished, updated, and all that stuff. And this is going to be a rotation thing. This is going to affect about 96 units in the Wildflower Apartments. And then also the cost of living is a big deal, because some people asked in the meeting what the cost of living for these particular apartments will be for low income. So this is kind of like, I would probably say this is one of the scariest things this is what's considered low income pricing in Missoula. And so here is Mike Boucher talking more about the pricing for the Wildflower Apartments, which are considered low income.
For a studio apartment, we're looking at about $1,000. For a one bedroom at 60%, it's about $1,100. For a two bedroom, it's under $1,300. And for a three bedroom, it's under $1,500. And the market on those units that's about $600 less for each unit type, I think, than you would typically see in the market. So a pretty significant savings for renters, for people who are able to income qualify. So we think it's a very nice benefit for community members that are able to qualify for that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much how expensive it is for a couple of my friends who are renting here in Missoula, about $1,200 a month, and they get a one bedroom, a kitchen, a living room. They're living together, but it is one of those kind of scary things when you look at the staunch contrast of how much things have increased in prices over the years. And mind you, most people in Missoula are pretty much making the 60% area median income, which roughly goes down to about $42,000 a year. It's a scary time to live in Missoula with those kind of costs associated with putting more than a third of your low income paycheck to afford to live there. I mean, if you are technically working 40 hours a week at basic minimum or minimum for Missoula, which roughly is like $1,250 from what I've seen across the board, making about $42,000-$45,000 a year. That's maybe $3,300 a month, and you're still kind of like on the struggle bus, regardless of all the other bills associated with it as well. And then part of this also is because they're a developer, they're private. This is public-private kind of operation, and it's basically how it works is that the city doesn't work. They work with developers. They're not a developer. They're the ones that do code reforms and make some wiggle room. And they're also looking into items related to Missoula housing, which brings me to my land use and planning. And this is a big move for the city, is looking to include a pro-housing grant subaward agreement, which provides the city with $391,270 in federal pro-housing to planning funds for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The other is a code amendment to develop efficient incentives for income-restricted affordable housing. So the City of Missoula Unified Development Code, a lot of people are saying, hey, you have to include affordable housing on this stuff. And most of the pushback from the City of Missoula is like, requirements will basically scare developers away. They will never make anything at all if we do this way. And that's kind of like they kind of skirted around the idea of mentioning that. I'm just kind of giving you the kind of like the blunt response of probably what they should be saying, because they're trying to be, diplomatic when they're trying to tell people it's like, we just can't do that. Now they're going to do something, but it's an incentive-based model, and Aaron Pearson talks about the pro-housing grant as it pertains to affordable housing in Missoula.
So for Missoula, this funding will support 3 related areas of work: the collection of data and developing tools for economic development modeling and land use market feasibility, updating the city's annexation policy, and implementing development review process mapping, system improvements, and performance monitoring and evaluation. So together, these efforts will help us better understand the feasibility of development, provide greater clarity about how and where we grow through that annexation policy update, and make our development review systems more consistent, transparent, and measurable, and will really help us evaluate the outcomes associated with the new Unified Development Code.
Yep, and so part of that also will include this new housing choice and access amendment that they're adding to the Unified Development Code. David DeGrandpay, also with CPDI, spoke about this next topic about code reform for affordable housing incentives, and this is his kind of kickoff.
Primary goal of that theme out of the land use plan is to develop a diverse, equitable, and resilient housing system that meets current and future needs and limits displacement. Specifically, Efforts called out in the land use plan include addressing affordable housing supply, affordability, housing choice, building type and diversity, encountering social inequity while disincentivizing displacement. Land use plan lists several approaches for how we tackle those housing challenges. And so the first one, of course, is improvement to the land use code. Now, we've done some of that already with adoption of Title 22. Specifically, or just some examples include eliminating parking requirements in residential developments, reducing building setbacks, permitting more diverse housing types in all neighborhoods, as well as allowing for smaller dwelling units in addition to other measures that have already been enacted.
Yeah, and so part of the big, the state had certain leniency when it comes to parking when you're developing housing. So what that means, the big part of the Unified Development Code in last year was to disregard parking altogether. The ability to, at least, to not provide parking and to kind of use that as a leverage to potentially like, oh, we can reduce parking if you add more affordable housing units. It is kind of like what we're aiming for. And it's just kind of like a part of that kind of thought process. And the housing choice and access is a buzzword associated with them implementing their affordable housing challenges and give incentives for developers to create affordable housing units by leveraging building codes. Requirements for affordable housing has met with mixed and negative results according to the city and staff trying to keep up with residential demands for better entry into housing in Missoula. Reality is the cost of living exploded beyond the means of our paychecks, and Dave talks more about these incentives as well.
At this point, we don't have all the parameters. We're initiating the project. It's not baked at this point, certainly. So, but it may also include other incentives. So incentives, not just for affordable housing, but to build larger units for enhanced accessibility for housing, independent living, seniors, all falling under the affordable housing umbrella. But I guess we'll see where it goes from here. It may include eligibility requirements for income, public benefits, and also procedures for how the programs or the incentives would be implemented.
Okay, so yeah, every time you make a space for the for any kind of place that you're selling, you make it market rate. And that's where you get into these kind of high rates of like costs of living and stuff like that. Because no matter how many things we keep developing, the market is just going to be the same market as it's always been. Unified Development Code saw the county/city borders be the largest projects looking to add higher volume of units. This essentially would create the ability to leverage development to allow for more space traditionally used. We're introducing green spaces. To increase the units and make them more permanently affordable based on this code amendment. It doesn't always have to be parks or green space, maybe right away. Parking spots get cut. State law used to require at least one parking spot, but like I said before, recent changes have basically allowed to not have any kind of parking spot per dwelling unit. And Baron Bean spoke about the nuance of this particular amendment because this is gonna be up for interpretation by the city of Missoula as they use this wiggle room incentive-based model to basically tell the developers, be like, hey, there's this other little thing that you guys can utilize. Will allow you to build 3 to 5 more units, but you have to make them deed rent controlled. You can increase the rent on these. These are for low income only. Most of them can be like, sure, build more units. We can make more money. That makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, it's like, I don't want that kind of weirdness because on one side of their apartment units, you have people paying less and then you have other people paying more, thus creating a weird class structure as a result. But at the same time, people are desperate enough to try to find any place that they can find. So this is Aaron P. and talking a little bit more about the incentives.
We are not talking about creating a broad-based incentives package where this is the targeted attempt to look at some specific regulatory and building standards that we think can be tweaked to better support true deed-restricted affordable housing and especially low-income housing tax credit developments that have very specific financial structures and oftentimes development requirements in comparison to market rate homes. And so so we didn't create incentives in the first round with the UDC because what we heard from the affordable housing development community is set broad standards that work for good growth across the community. Don't hold anything back for affordability, because we really just need housing at all levels, all scales, all types.
Yep, that's the prevailing use, and even the city of Missoula has been, that's where we have those kind of arguments with the Midtown Commons, because there's such a high demand for overall housing units, like the bigger sum of the city implementing their will, being able to be like, hey, this is city-owned property. We want this to have more housing based on the future models of people moving to the city of Missoula. Many local residents were not too happy. There's that litigation that is going on here. Needless to say, the city moved this item further up the chain to be on the consent agenda for further code reform adjustments to focus more on affordability incentive options. So this is not a big game changer, but it will allow the wheels to turn a little bit more in favor of affordable housing in the future. Planning continues this trend with the brownfield dollars. It looks like the city of Missoula is going to get up to $500,000 for continuing work in cleanup and redevelopment on older sites and structures for redevelopment, essentially. Tyler Walls from CPDI talks about this particular EPA fund. This is what he had to say.
Just as a reminder to council and to the public, EPA defines a brownfield as real property where the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of a hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. Since 2004, the city of Missoula has administered the oldest brownfields RLF across the state of Montana, and something we should be very proud of. Over the course of that time, we've been awarded over $4.3 million in EPA RLF funding. We've issued 3 loans and 9 subgrants. Out of those loans, we've capitalized just over $3 million in program income, again, generated from loan repayments over the course of the program's history. As a result, we've cleaned up 58 acres right here in the Missoula urban core, and leveraging conservatively $155 million, we've been able to see a result of nearly 400 new homes, 61 of which are permanently affordable. We helped clean up Silver Park, which is the 14-acre public park along the river, and we've also yielded quite a bit of commercial space through our projects.
Yeah, there's a lot to be thankful for the brownfield sites, because as you may know, Superfund sites are essentially corporations leaving the site, abandoning mining operations, and the site is basically just kind of technically abandoned. The owners basically pay the taxes on the site in perpetuity until they either sell it to some other company that promises to clean it up, and then brownfield money that needed to clean up those sites are vastly not enough for those big industrial sites, as opposed to more smaller areas. Silver Park is a great example, the old sawmill district they call it, where they have all that new development that's popping up. Tyler says that the city focuses on sites near the railroad moving forward, which are often related to former industrial sites that are becoming mixed use, which means once they're done doing their due diligence on sites, they'll be able to flip those properties to create more housing options. Best part, no cost sharing, thus creates incentives to clean up the sites for future use. And as you saw, since 2004, $155 worth of investment has been done because of the site's cleanups. Thus concludes my city council report. It's very jarring. I've been kind of bouncing all over the place. I didn't really have too many transitional words, but here are some of the new programs that are going to be airing on MCAT. These are probably some really great talks that MCAT covered over the last couple weeks, including the state of the university addressed with the newest university president, Dr. Jeremiah Shin.
Every year, students in our School of Law provide thousands of hours of pro bono legal assistance to Montanans who might otherwise not have access to representation. Accounting students volunteer their time helping members of our community prepare tax returns. Journalism students are reporting from rural communities that have become news deserts, covering school boards, county commissions, and local governments whose stories deserve to be told. History students are preserving the voices of civic leaders whose experiences might otherwise be lost to time. Different disciplines, different approaches, one shared goal: to improve the lives of the people we serve. Being new to campus, I've noticed that there's a version of the University of Montana that exists in people's minds that is smaller than the university we actually are. People try to fit this university into a single box. To some, we're a liberal arts university. To others, we're a forestry school or a journalism school or a business school or a school of the arts. We are all those things, and we are very good at those things.
In every Indian law case that does reach the Supreme Court, which we seem to have decided is this like arbiter of these questions, the courts of the conqueror, every question of Indian law boils down to a question of sovereignty. It doesn't matter in what context it arises. It doesn't matter how niche the question might seem or how minimal, how much advocates might try to minimize adverse consequences. Any question of Indian law can sort of create a chink in the armor that brings the whole thing down. For example, one of the most consequential cases of the last several years was an Indian Child Welfare Act case, and many of us who participated in that case really thought that we might be facing the end of Indian law. There was a question about whether or not the Indian Child Welfare Act violated equal protection, which would mean if the court held that it violated equal protection as a race-based classification, that it would erase an entire chapter of the United States Code, the chapter titled Indians, because tribal sovereignty is founded on the idea that this is a political and government-to-government relationship, and therefore the United States can legislate on behalf of Indians as a political class and not violate equal protection.
Has anybody heard of I'm sure many of you have heard of the Idle No More movement that happened 2012, 2013. So it was a big, awareness, grassroots political movement across the board that was, it began out of protest of some federal bills in Canada, but then it ended up being, let's advocate for so many other things like representation and so on. Anyway, there was a big rally in Ottawa where I was living and reporting at the time. And I covered this rally, and at the very end of this event, which is right on Parliament Hill, this big lawn in front of the federal legislature in Canada, there was a round dance. A round dance broke out, and it was like this powerful moment, this really beautiful celebration of protest, of culture, of resistance, and so on, right? So, the whole time I was reporting on this movement, I was seeing how the competitors, did it, right? And I was watching another broadcaster cover the same story that day. And the reporter, wrapped up their story by saying, and to end the protest, the protesters formed a human chain and walked in a circle, right? Totally unaware and ignorant of what a round dance actually is, right. So, those are the kinds of things that, we as community members are up against, but also, the system itself of journalism has to contend with at the same time. And
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some movies that are coming out this week, and it's time for my Pre-Critic section where I judge a movie based on my biases towards movies in general about how predictable their plots usually tend to be. And here we go with a A Few Good Men, but with Acme cartoon characters. Essentially, it's a court drama. Watch as we attempt to bring cartoons back to life in this movie about Coyote looking to catch a roadrunner, which in real life is actually easy, mind you. This is a movie that was supposed to be buried many years ago for tax reasons. And watch as this cartoon-shaded mute attempts to right the wrongs of the corporation of Acme, which kind of provides the dynamic of this entire movie as it's going against corporate overlords. And in many ways, the movie is trying to sell their ticket on the fact that the distribution rights is picked up by another organization just so they could sell it. So anyways, watch Bugs, Daffy, and a few other celebrity cameos for good measure to do another live-action Looney Tunes that is still trying to feel the high of Space Jam gave them about 30 years ago. But also, this movie was destroyed by the corporate overlords and is getting released based on fan demand. So in many ways, this movie exists against the corporate overlords. So there's a pretty interesting selling point to a lot of people. Then we got The Dog Stars, which is definitely an interesting title because there is a dog in this movie, but it's more or less about the survival of a small group, a band of misfits where, you know, the guy lost everything in his life and the only thing he has to connect with his family is his dog. So expect tears to be flowing, especially for those who love dogs. Typical post-apocalyptic movie, enough survivors to have them fight amongst themselves for resources. Why not have a dog thrown in there to make it a little bit fun for a bunch of good-looking stars trying to find what audiences like these days? It kind of feels like it's the least Hollywood is trying new things by redoing or mismatching old things together to convince you it's original, but it's mostly just like post-apocalyptic movie, virus killed everyone, and they're just like, a dog's purpose. Let's just put them together and then just resell the movie. Maybe it's like Air Bud, but post-apocalyptic. He's like, they can't be a dog in the post-apocalyptic world. There's no rules in the post-apocalyptic. Anyways. Buddy, you know what's one of the most common tropes? A cute, kid-friendly creature turns out to be an evil monster. You know those silly kid shows with giant mascots and puppets like the Electric Company and Barney and Friends and Pee-wee's Playhouse? Watch as Buddy, the unicorn, a completely fictitious creation of this movie that brought joy to generations of kids, forces kids and their caretakers on a journey through the basic public access hell as they must figure out how to get out and get out of this kid's learning show, essentially. I assume they have to play along with those twisted games to survive, and those who are just trying to run get got by the unicorn mascot, Buddy. So I'm pretty sure you have a young girl who dealt with the trauma of dealing with Buddy the first time and then has to go back in there to save, I don't know, either her kid or a kid that she's watching or a kid that lost her parents. And there's always some kind of mismatch of why an adult is pursuing a kidnapped child in these kind of movies. So anyways, Idiots. Yes, it's one of those kind of comedy movies. See, there's a lot of talk where people want, like, we want comedy movies, but we just don't want to see them. You have a movie called Idiot, which, you know, you'd have to be an idiot to not to see this movie and to not see this movie. A real Schrodinger's cat situation. Watch as two buds are tasked with the most liability, an Uber or Lyft driver has to deal with a sketchy passenger with major dollars back in his transport from one place to another. Since this is a cross-country journey, everything will go wrong, and they must work together to survive the horrors of a buddy action comedy. So I'm assuming they're gonna not get along at first. The guy's annoying, gets them into trouble, and then they find out that they get along, and then they embrace them, all that stuff, and so on and so forth. And then everyone lived kind of happily ever after, and then there's like always some kind of like physical stunt gag or whatever. But anyways, Dave Franco's in that movie, so yeah, enjoy that. Up next, we have a. This is going to be the last summer camp movie I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to bring back dubbing stuff next week where I redub all the voices of some old movies. But in this case, we're doing John Snatchem, a horror movie that we made during horror camp 2 weeks ago, featuring those wacky summer camp teens. And this is an extended video. This is a long one too. This is about 9 minutes long. So I'm going to leave it to this. And when I come back, we're going to talk about some events and news that are happening in the city of Missoula. Enjoy.
This guy, dude, I'm trying to be nice to him. He is just getting on my nerves.
Wait, who is it?
It's Scott, I'm telling
Oh
you.
my god, I have him in my math class. He's so annoying.
I know.
He's terrible.
Just kick him out of school already.
The other day in class, I raised my hand and he yelled over me.
What?
He got it wrong too. I didn't even do anything right.
Didn't he go back a few grades too?
Yeah, he's like a 20 and he's in junior year.
Some people are just not cut out for this world.
Oh.
Scott really is awful. Like, he's so awful. You're not gonna believe it. Like, I was in the hall one time. He stole my lunch money. Yeah. And
What's up, Teen Squad?
We are not the Teen Squad. Who are you?
We are the Teen Squad. Since I just turned 13, I am now officially a teenager.
Right. He stole my energy drink. That's not cool. You don't even
I don't know what you're talking about. Energy drinks don't even exist. They're government psyop and they're super unhealthy.
What?
I'm not.
This kid. This child, this youngling.
I mean, don't drink energy drinks because they don't exist and they're not good for you.
Sure.
Someone's been podcasting lately.
What about podcasting? Because podcasts are also a government plant. Podcasts are not real.
You know what? You need to be 13 and a half to hang out with us, so
I
why don't
literally
you just go?
My senior friends said I can hang out with you guys. And that you guys can't
Well-
stop me.
Your senior friends.
My senior friends will beat you up, I swear.
Uh-huh.
I swear.
I'm sure
I
they
swear.
will.
I swear they will.
What seniors are you friends with?
So you know, like, you know about like that one guy who like wears jeans and has like brown hair.
Get out of here, nobody cares.
I hate it here anyways. Gonna go hang out with my brown-haired, jean-wearing, right-handed friend that also has brown eyes and is real.
Oh my god, freshmen are such sign-offs. What was that?
So what?
That was crazy. What was that? I don't know.
What are you talking about?
Didn't you see that? It was right there. It was just. You saw it too, right? Sure. Totally. What was that thing? I don't even know what that was. Yes, you saw it too, right? Sure, I told you. Guys, we gotta think of something to figure out what that was. We can't just leave it here. I mean, sure that freshman was annoying, but what even happened? This looks great. Do you have any idea what that even was? Not a clue. Yeah, I have no idea what that. I don't know what that could be. Come on, you two gotta think of something.
Oh, we didn't even see what you're talking about. Are you sure you didn't just make this up? It sounds fake.
Yes, but you guys just can't lazy around like bums. You gotta help us.
I am helping. I'm helping by not adding input because I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Oh my god, none of you are help.
I am helping.
You've been awfully quiet. I mean, you were facing the same way. Wouldn't you have seen it? What do you have to say about this?
What are you talking about? Why are you immediately attacking me? Just because I could have seen it too, why don't you attack Mara? You saw it. You saw it too. No, why don't you know? What are you talking about? You're not talking something. Stop interrogating me. What haven't you told us? Nothing.
Does she know something?
I think she's crazy.
Yeah, she's acting really weird. She's acting really weird all
Okay,
day.
fine. Fine, it's John Snatcham. It's John Snatcham, okay? What? What? Okay. So, couple weeks ago, I found this book in the library on how to summon a friend when you're lonely. Oh, there's drawings. Because you guys aren't supportive of me, I needed somebody else. So I summoned John Snatcham, right? And he's my child. He's so sweet. I love him. He wouldn't do anything. And then I don't know what happened, guys. He wasn't supposed to eat that freshman. He's friendly.
So, what? He snatched a freshman because it was a little annoying? How is that reasonable at all?
I don't know.
Freshmen do suck.
Oh my god. This is insane. How could you do something like that?
No, he wasn't supposed to snatch freshmen. It's also, we adopted you. You're fine. I don't know why he did that.
How could you create something like that? What is wrong with you? That is insane. I can't believe I've been friends with someone since 3rd grade who would do something like this. You are a monster. How could you do that?
I didn't do it on purpose.
You are insane.
I'm not insane.
I didn't know you at all. How could you do this?
It wasn't me, it was John.
You made him. You created this.
But he wasn't supposed to snatch people.
You made him. Oh my god, you're insane. You created a monster. I need to call the police.
That's a funny looking dog.
No, don't let him make me.
John, spit him out. Spit him out. Spit him out.
No, don't let him make me. No, please.
John, spit him out. No, John.
No, please help. No, God, I'm too young to die. Please, no.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What was that?
I don't know. I don't know why he just took everyone. I'm sorry.
Except my best friend is gone. We're not friends anymore. You were never our friend, and now you started killing us?
I didn't mean for him to take it. I'm sorry. He wasn't supposed to snatch him. Why are we not friends? I thought we were friends.
We're sorry for you.
Don't you think that's a little harsh, right?
We would talk about her behind her back all the time. You were always a loser. Why do you think we would hang out with you? He's right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah. Right behind you.
Jonathan Michael Snatcham. What did I say about snatching people? Don't do it. I said don't do it. Don't do it.
Make room, make way, hear the floorboards crack. A lopsided legend with a sack on his back. You know him when you see him, you don't want to meet him. Snatching sacks, swinging like a shadow, can you beat?
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that long extended featurette featuring them wacky kids from our horror camp last week. Not last week, but 2 weeks ago. Yeah, those are our summer camps, and we're going to be probably promoting our winter camp sometime in November. But right now we're promoting our used media sale. So if you have any used media from VHS, DVDs, old video games, or anything like that you want to donate to MCAT, you can donate them anytime between Thursday and Friday between our open hours 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It is a great resource and helps us raise money so we continue our services and buy equipment and other things for the service of the Missoula area for people to make their own videos, very much like I'm doing right now. So let's jump into some events. We're wrapping up last week of August, and you folks at home get to do the Missoula Roots Festival. You know, I got to do it during the Kids Fest that happened around 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. That was a great experience, a great way for MCAT to get out there and about with other organizations. MISMO had a beautiful setup there with their pads and stuff, and little kids doing their little twirls and stuff. They had a couple of living statues just kind of standing there doing their thing. Animal Wonders was there, so just a couple of my personal favorites right there. They also have some pediatric care booths there for folks looking to connect with their new pediatrician. But also, that's happening today is the Fleet Montana Irish Festival featuring the Dubliners. Enjoy an afternoon and evening filled with live music, traditional dance performances, hurling, demonstration, delicious food from local vendors, arts and crafts, local beer, and much more. And this is going to be starting this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. and will go on until tonight. If you are interested in yoga or basic workouts to start your day, Barn Park's moms meet at Stroller Strides weekdays starting at 9:30 a.m. Red Willow is doing yoga for healthy aging. Sacred Alley is doing their healthy stretching, all happening this morning as we're talking. Missoula, a museum open hours at Spectrum Discovery Center. This is a Spectrum located on the second floor of the Missoula Public Library. A great way to get involved with science, exhibits, and part of the STEM programs to enhance your kids' science activities. A part of that extension is the Missoula Food Bank meal distribution. They just are wrapping up their summer meal plans for those kiddos 18 and younger. But Missoula Food Bank does not discriminate against people. It does not turn people away. It is a great resource for people who are dealing with economic uncertainty and looking for cheap, nutritious food sourced here at our local Missoula Food Bank. Tiny Tales is a reading program here at the Missoula Public Library happening every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Guided walking history tours through Destination Missoula. For those new history majors out there at the university looking to learn a little bit more about history, and people who live in Missoula looking to ignite their history of living in the town they've lived in for so long and maybe learning something new. Guided walking tours start at 11 a.m. at Destination Missoula. Butterfly release at the Missoula Butterfly House. Every couple weeks they have a whole bunch of new brood of butterflies flying around the insectarium at the Missoula Butterfly House. This is starting at 11 a.m. They also do predator feedings in the afternoon. Yarns and Watercolor. This is a staple of Missoula Public Library every Friday at noon. On the fourth floor, everything becomes arts and crafts between stitching, crocheting, and watercolor. You got Watson Mills at Old Post at the lunch and music. So they're doing some lunch music at the Watson Mills. Going to be playing at the Old Post at 12 noon today. All Abilities Art Club at Base. This is for people who are ADA accessible. Art Ability, All Abilities Art Club is through Base. It's a nonprofit organization that helps connect people to resources. Young Adults Writers Group at the Missoula Public Library every Friday at 3:30 p.m. Learn computer animation with Blender at MCAT here at 4 p.m. This is happening from 4 to 6 p.m. It's a workshop. Anybody can drop in and you can start at any point of 3D animation. TNB, which is trans non-binary, is going to be at the Western Montana LGBTQ Center for teens 13 to 18. This is a club. It's a chill drop-in space where you enter around trans and non-binary teens. Sorry, I keep on dropping the syllable. And their friends. Allies are welcome, whether you're looking to meet new people, reconnect with friends, or just have a safe place to hang out. Western Montana LGBT Community Center, which is starts at 5 p.m. tonight. Friday food truck at the Missoula Senior Center. The Senior Center has been kicking it off with food trucks every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Maybe this will be the last one. I'm not entirely sure, but food trucks are highly encouraged, and there's many places to check out food trucks between out to lunch on Wednesdays, downtown tonight, which is pretty much wrapped up just as well. So this might be the last week for those food trucks, but you might be able to see those pop-up food trucks all sorts of different areas in Missoula, especially those special events that are happening this weekend. Tango Dance Party at Montana Moonlight Studio at 6 p.m. tonight. Just learn some dancing and some tango. Off-pitch karaoke at Odd Pitch Brewing Company at 6 p.m. Much Ado About Nothing is going to do some Shakespeare at the Park at the Oval at 6 p.m. They did one last night. Live music with Beth Lowe, David Horgan, and M.J. Williams playing at 10 Spoon Winery and Vineyard at 6 p.m. tonight. Some jazz, easy listening music. Symphony at the River with Lettuce at Kettle's Amphitheater is performing at the Kettle House at 6:30 p.m. in Bonner. Karaoke at the Jack Saloon at 7 p.m. Jazz Off the Rails at Leaf and Quiet, 7 p.m. Outdoor Cinema is doing the Emperor's New Groove at the Lifelong Learning Center, just off of 3rd. You want to check that out. This is right next to the Sovereign Hope Church parking lot. We also have the Missoula, the Spills is going to be performing at the Union Club to wrap up your Friday night as we start talking about markets and such on Saturdays. So they're going to be continuing well until late October. So get your local produce, baked goods, and more at the Farmers Market, People's Market, and the River City Clark Fork River Market. This is roughly between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Times may vary at different closing and opening times, but the sweet spot tends to be about 9 a.m. to about 1 p.m. or 12:30. Some places tear down a little bit earlier than that. We have Queer Creatives Market. This is the Montana LGBTQ Center. They're kicking things off this weekend from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is supporting local LGBTQ artists in Western Montana, whether you're looking for a special gift or simply want to connect with community. Everyone is welcome. And the market runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the LGBTQ Center starting at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Moon Randolph Homestead, they're going to be gearing up and going to be showing off the Moon Randolph Homestead this every Saturday at 11 a.m. This is a great way for us to learn about homesteading. And at some point, they're going to be doing their apple picking and apple cider pressing sometime in the future as fall begins to rear its old head. Museum tour at the Missoula Art Museum at 11 a.m. This is more of a guided and helpful tour for people interested in learning more about the Missoula Art Museum. Story time at Missoula Public Library at 11:30 a.m. MCAT Saturday Drop-In is one of our kid-centric events happening from 1 to 3 p.m. here at the Missoula Public Library's first floor at our MCAT studio space. Palestine in the Park. Bonner Park is doing a Palestine in the Park with food trucks, live music, and beautiful local art for auction. This is to benefit and celebrate Palestinian families in need. And this is at Bonner Park from 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday. Marshall Fest is also happening, so there's a lot of festivals happening. It is the season of festivals. You got the Irish Fest happening today. We also have Marshall Fest, where we're going to have a bunch of German Fest and Oktoberfest themed stuff happening in October, of course. But Marshall Fest is a celebration and music and fundraising. All proceeds goes to Girls on Shred Marshall Mountain Rail Garden, a free ski and snowboard park for all ski levels. They'll have stacked raffle and merch for sale, cash preferred, blah, blah, blah. Suggested donation for music is $10. The day will kick off with live bands from 1 to 5, followed by DJs to close out the event. Bring your own dance shoes, picnic materials, and generosity. Carpooling encouraging. The mountain line runs until about 4 p.m., so you'll be able to use public transportation to get up to Marshall Mountain. Saturday Tiny Tales at 3 p.m. This is a thing that they do at the Missoula Public Library after the afternoon. Totes Fest at the Dark Horse Bar. They're going to be featuring lots of bands. This is a 21 and older festival starting at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. These are going to be featuring 16 rock, metal, and punk acts on 2 stages, the Dark Horse and the Sunrise Saloon. Bingo night at Odd Pitch at 6 p.m. Into Cartoon Iverse drag show at 7 p.m. Zach, you're probably going to see a lot of Cartoon Network inspired drag at 7 p.m. at the Zach. Solid karaoke at the Dog Bowl Lounge at the Westside Lanes Pool Lounge. The Owen Ross Band is going to be at the Union Club on Saturday night. DJ Chris Mooney is every Saturday at the Badlander. Sunday, we got some group dog training classes. This is an ongoing thing that they do on Sundays at 9 a.m. at the Legion baseball fields. Butterfly Release at Butterfly House at 12:30 on Sunday. Salsa dance class, Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater at 1 p.m. Baraka Basics, Zootown Dance Collective at 3 p.m. And they're located a little bit trickier in like Suite 2 of Higgins street address. So you want to look up Zootown Dance Collective for more information on that. Pinball Tournament at Odd Pitch Brewing. They usually do this on Sundays at 4 p.m. Summertime High Tea at the Clay Studio in support of the Artist Residency and Adrian Arleo's beautiful backyard. Enjoy an appetizing selection of tea party themed snacks. Sip on delicious chilled and warm tea by Lake Missoula Tea Company and other beverages. And also they're doing a tea talk at Lake Missoula Tea Company on Sunday at 4 p.m. This is from 4 to 5 p.m. if you're interested in learning more about tea. NFL Bingo at Tamarack at 5 p.m. Dram Tough Trivia at Southgate location Dram Shop. Bonnie Raitt at the Kettle Amphitheater at 6:30 p.m. to wrap up your Sunday. Impulse Noise with Dirty Brother and No Policy at the Zootown Arts Community Center. And wrapping up your Sunday, as always, is Sunrise Saloon Karaoke. All right, so we got about 5 more minutes. I kind of want to go through some big news happening this week as well. I won't spend too much time on a lot of things that are happening as well, but it has been a pretty rough week with a billing slain of 8 family members that had their report released after Sunday's deadly shooting. The shooter, Alan Smith, was not counted among the victims and died sometime after a self-inflicted gun wound. The first officer arrived around 6:12 p.m. at their local Sunday dinner with their family, and they heard shots from back around the house. The department said by 6:15 the house was engulfed in smoke. 6:48, the first responder transported Alan Smith to hospital where he later died. This is the second mass shooting in Montana since Anaconda that killed 4 at a bar. Their GoFundMe is available online, and the nonprofit, the Youth Peace and Justice Foundation, also stepped in to help remaining family members deal with this. They formed after the 2022 Uvalde shooting in Texas back in 2022, and their mission statement is that they believe in a connection that to tragedy is measured by action, not proximity. Since its founding, the organization has dedicated sustained time, advocacy, programming, and resources towards protecting children and advancing accountability in schools and communities nationwide. They started out as a new Uvalde Foundation for Kids, but national attention and fundraising helped them expand their services for victims of mass shooting. Missoula's fire station saw a drop from very high to high in terms of fire danger. This means the recent moisture has affected the areas, but fires are still considered dead out, which means the initial fires is not visible. The smoldering could present challenges if certain criteria among weather and the people starting fires happens. Fire officials continue to support each other and public suppression and prevention efforts. General outdoor burning remains closed, so you can go to mtfireinfo.org for more information on fire restrictions throughout the state. All right, so data centers are kind of back, but with the state requirement in creating an impact study. Of course, you might have heard the Trump administration put an executive order being like, they don't have to do any kind of studies to move it forward, but we don't know because the courts might block this executive order because the president has certain criteria that they could do. But at the same time, I said it before and I'll say it again, those with plans will always win against those without plans, and the temporary moratorium lasts for 1 year to the date of adoption, giving the county until next July to implement any long-term zoning, though it could still seek another year extension of this particular thing. So it's not over, but it's not over. Part of this lacks the major points many communities have made within these complaints about energy consumption, water usage, e-waste, location risk, scalability and efficiency, and of course noise. Addressing those may fall into the Missoula County Health Department, including issues around air and water quality and hazardous waste. So I'm gonna kind of leave it on that. And some new age interesting things is Tim Sheehy and a bipartisan support for the passenger rail. This is a new story by Martin Kidson I just picked up this morning. And so Sheehy joined Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority Board Chairman and Missoula County Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer in the fireside chat during the Great Northern Rail Summit, in an event that drew federal transportation officials and rail advocates from across the region. So it's definitely picking up some steam across the state. Provide more connectivity. Sheehy was quoted in saying that he wanted us to be more like China and Japan in terms of their passenger rail systems, increasing it and being a little bit more effective. And the Passenger Rail Authority formed back in 2019 as an attempt to bring back passenger rail and connectivity across Montana, especially the southern region of the railroad tracks that would essentially transport us from across Missoula all the way to Chicago, Milwaukee, and those kind of places. Of course, our Milwaukee Trail is now used for a bike path. Former Senator John Tester ensured that the line was included in a federal study on restoring long-distance routes that led the Rail Authority to identify the North Coast Hiawatha as the preferred routes to be restored. So there's a lot going on, and there's definitely a lot of potential, and there's definitely some federal dollars to put behind this. And if there's going to be a big investment in domestic defenses and building up all sorts of things, I think even using a military contract to bolster rails in the nation would be a good benefit for everyone across the board, especially when it comes to transporting military-grade equipment, which we've seen come through Missoula now and again, just being able to kind of think outside the box for additional funding to expand these rail systems. But I'm not going to get too much into it. And Northwest Energy also had another story on Montana Free Press, and they have been ordered by state regulators to take its 20-year power plan back to the drawing boards. There's a lot of questions about infrastructure, a lot of things going on here, and the commissioners for the PFC, Public Service Commission, voted 3-1 last week to require Northwest Energy to address flaws found in their plan. So right now they're going back to the drawing board, and this has been a long plan in the works. So I'm not going to talk too much on that. That's a bit about it for my show. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ranf. Take care, everyone.